It is finally that time of year again where I talk trash about your favorite books and you resent me for it. Everyone, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be all about the worst books that I've read in 2020. Frankly, I don't feel like this is going to be my worst year in terms of having unpopular opinions, but as usual, for anyone that doesn't know, this is part of my end of the year series where I talk about the worst, the best, the most surprising, and most disappointing books that I've read throughout the year. I will link the other videos down below since this one is the last one. So let's get through the books because I don't have that many, but you know, I still have some strong opinions to share. Let's start with The Midnight Sun. Look, I am 100% aware that I did that to myself. There's no one else to blame but me. For anyone that doesn't know, you're following the Twilight book, the first one, from Edward's point of view. And just have to admit that Edward managed to be even more insufferable than I expected him to be. Like, he outdid himself. I did do a reading log on it if anyone wants to see, because I did include all the new info, so I would like show you the page so you could read it if you want to, so you get all the good parts without having to suffer through the whole book. But yes, Edward is such a little victim. I did include in that vlog, let me include it in here, this TikTok video that just...
Oh, he's kind of hot. Dear Diary, another whore vies for my affections. Existence is agony.
Yeah, it summarizes a lot of the book. Let's mention the positive. You do get more information, background on Edwards, on Rosalie, their past basically. You kind of get to see that Bella might not be the most reliable main character, like narrator. She seems to be a little less, just a little less boring. She seems to have a little bit more personality. But yeah, overall this was super painful. What else was positive? Okay, there's like a few scenes that are a little bit more interesting. Like the first time Edward meets Jacob, he can obviously read his mind and he's thinking to himself, oh, you know, if it weren't for this situation, we could be friends kind of thing. So these were little moments that made it bearable and like worth... I take it back. It still wasn't worth reading the whole thing. But I did it. No one else to blame but me. And now I can go back to pretending it doesn't exist. I have to say, like, I have a special place in my heart for Twilight. Like, I'm fully aware it's not great literature, but I grew up reading them. I grew up watching the movies. I totally had a phase in the beginning of the lockdown to like rewatching all of them. And it was terrible and awesome all at the same time. But this was just not worth it. So yeah, objectively, absolutely one of the worst books that I've read throughout the year. And yeah, we'll probably unhaul this soon. Middle Game by Shauna Marie. It almost made it to my most disappointing books of the year because I went into this one hoping I was going to love this because this is my 8th book by the author, and I was looking forward to reading an adult, is it fantasy, I think? Fantasy sci-fi book by her. And this was terrible, so much so that it has to be in my worst books of the year. Everyone seems to have very different opinions on this one, but let me just say that the two main characters you're following are twins, separated at birth, and they're called Roger and Dodger. That should give you an inkling of how bad this is. The idea was smart. It was fun. Like, the author is really great at creating these worlds. In this one, again, the magic system superpowers are interesting. One of the twin is really good with numbers, and then the other one with languages. They're linked by quantum entanglement, and it seems like it has potential. It has potential, but it is such a letdown. I was so bored. How big is this book? 500 pages. So it's a pretty chunky book, and I was bored out of my mind the whole time. I did try to read it as an ebook, couldn't do it, so I did read it as an audiobook, which made me able to finish it, but just because I forced myself, which, dude, this is why we DNF books. Because every single time I force myself to finish a book, I don't even enjoy it. So why the hell am I doing this to myself? So I should have never finished this, but it's just because I had been looking forward to reading it for so long, like an adult book by her, that I did it. But I like her writing usually, but I didn't even care for her writing this one. The world building is so vague, and nothing I enjoyed. None. Don't even recommend the audiobook because the voices for some of the characters were straight up painful. And yeah, the world is so vague, and it is going to be a series, and you could not pay me to read this. Well, I mean, everyone has a price, but no, I'm not going to read it. Yeah, it's coming out actually in 2022, but don't do it. I mean, some people enjoyed it. I shouldn't say that, but don't do it. This brings us to The Starless C by Erin Morgenstern. I have read The Night Circus because there's so much hype behind this book, and like, I didn't have any big issues, but I still didn't love it. I found that it's not action driven. It's not even character driven. It's like setting driven. Like, it's all about the writing and the setting, like the magical circus, which I still got something out of the story. I didn't like the ending. I had a bunch of issues with it, but I could admit that the writing was beautiful and I can understand why people loved it. Not here. Her writing is still stunning, absolutely stunning, but if I try to tell you what the story is about, it's going to make it sound more exciting than it is. So I'm going to keep it short to not, make you want to read it. The main character is a university student, and one day he finds a book that contains stories that is about him. And, magical doors to magical universe. And in this case, it's once again very setting driven. There's no plot. You cannot convince me that there's a plot. There just isn't. I didn't even care for the characters apart from like the beginning, and it just gets very confused. It's just confusing for the sake of being confusing. That is my opinion. Like, when books try to be very deep, like, oh, there's probably messages that I'm not getting, and you just feel a little dumb. But I'm convinced there's none of that. It just makes you feel dumb because it's pretty but makes no sense. I did actually include this book. I was doing a reading vlog about books authors I was giving a second chance to. So since I didn't about Night Circus, I wanted to give her a second chance to change my mind about her. And this was painful. 50% into the book, I still had no idea what the book was about. That's not a good thing. And even after finishing it, I still have no clue what this was about. So I want my time back. Listen, Emily. You didn't like it. Why did you not put it down? DNF books. So yeah, actually, I was preparing my list before posting this video, and I saw someone comment a quote from the book, and I have to read it because it's so true. How are you feeling? Zachary asked. Like I'm losing my mind, but in a slow, achingly beautiful sort of way. This summarized the books perfectly. It's stunning. Those are beautiful words. But that's it. It makes no sense. I'm not getting it. It sucked. So I will never read the book by the author. I am so done. I feel mean because it's a beautiful book. But no, absolutely not. I wouldn't recommend it unless you loved, and I mean loved, The Night Circus. If you were just a little so-so about it, don't even do this to yourself. No, absolutely no stars. No stars, yeah. Normal People. I read this recently, so it's probably fresh in your mind if you follow my channel, but no, absolutely not. I hated every second of it. Every second of it. I did go through it as an audiobook once again because I tend to finish books that way and I'm so about them, and I shouldn't have. I really should not have. First off, you learn that normal people are boring. They just are, at least in this book. I don't like the plot of miscommunication. Not even, it's no communication. It was just super pointless. I hated the writing. Hated it. You have to just read a few sentences and you'll get it. It's just not for me. I've been describing this, and I stand by that whoever was responsible for the marketing deserves a raise because they managed to make this book be read by 400,000 people, and it sucks. It's so boring. I was planning on watching the TV show after reading the book, and absolutely never going to happen. Never. I know everyone says the TV show is so much better. I don't care. It will never happen. I'm just resenting this book. It's not even big. Once again, it's 250 pages. No, I want my time back. This sucked. The award for the book that made me the most angry this year. The Secret Commonwealth by Philip Pullman. I will never not be angry about this book. Ever. This is the second book in a companion series of Is Dark Materials. If you haven't read that book by him, the series by him, you need to. It's fantastic. I loved it. Grew up reading it, reread it as an adult 2 years ago, still loved it, probably even more. And in this companion series, the first book was a prequel to it, and this is later when Lyra is 20. And I have been waiting my whole life for this book. This is my biggest letdown, but it's so bad that it has to be in my worst. It took me 3 months to read it. A book I've been dying to read my whole life. There's no plot. Like, it makes no sense. Once again, it's super confusing, but not in a good way. And a few things I want to mention are spoilers, so I'll put spoilers on the screen right now to let you skip ahead. But I am so mad about so many things in here. Do not want to read one more book about a rape scene, or in this case, an attempted rape scene, just to advance the plot. I am done. Like, no, done. Cancel all of them. It makes no sense in the story, came out of nowhere. It brought nothing to the story. The character barely acknowledged it. I can't. Like, I was not expecting that from the author. I didn't think he was going to be doing something like that. Hated that. I am super resentful also. What's his name? Malcolm. He apparently is very into Lyra. How much older is he? There's an 11-year difference between them. So he's basically one of her teacher at one point. He saved her life in the prequel, whatever. And like, he's into her when she was 14, 15? No, F you. Like, no. And it's seen as romantic and a good thing. He's a predator. How is that a good thing? Very, very mad about that. Again, like I said, the story makes no sense. It's so vague. And I want to read a third... I don't, but I will read a third book just because I still don't understand how this series is written by the same author that wrote Is Dark Materials, because that is so good and this is so bad. I want to understand what F is going on. It's no. I was reading some of the people's explanation of like, oh, it's the désenchantement, whatever the English version of saying it. You know, people growing up not believing in magic anymore and blah, and science should... They live in a world where they have demons. It makes no sense to me. I'm very, very mad. Will I read the third book? Yes, because I don't like myself, clearly. I will never not be mad about this book. Like, if the third book is this bad, I will never read anything else by the author. I will pretend this whole series doesn't exist. That's how mad I am. Last but certainly not least, the need. This has no need to exist. That's all I have to say. I did a video earlier this year. I swear I read this last year, but I didn't. Earlier this year, I did a video about the weirdest books that I've read, and this was in there, but like in the bad book section, well, to me. And I had picked this up because some people were saying that it wasn't a bad second book to read after Behind Her Eyes. Like, the ending is so weird, and the premise sounds interesting. You're following this mom, and you don't know if she's losing her mind or if something is happening in the house or, you know, around her and her kids. I wanted to read it. No. As I was preparing my list, I saw someone describe things that I forgot about, like I blanked it. She was saying how there's so much about breast milk, like pumping breast milk, leaking breast milk, and so many mentions of mommy, mommy, mommy. That's what I've been saying when I described this book, that I could just feel my uterus and my ovaries shriveling up and dying, and I don't want to read about motherhood ever again after this book. And maybe that's what the author wants, you know, describing the horror of motherhood. But like, this book is 250 pages and it manages to be boring and repetitive. Like, how do you do this? How? And the ending, the shocking ending, confused. No words, sucked. I have no idea what I read. Like, when you finish a book and you're like, what? What did I just read? That was it? That describes the need. No. Oh, no. So yeah, that's it. These are the 6 worst books that I've read this year. I feel like it's not that bad this year. Like, it's less than 10% of the books that I've read that made it in this video. So I don't think I had a great reading year, but also didn't have that many that were absolutely horrible. So, you know? I hope you enjoyed this video. Thumbs up, subscribe. Like I mentioned, I will put the other videos from this series in the comment section. No, in the description box. Let me know in the comment section, though, the worst books you have read this year, because I want to know. And especially if you have any reviews about the books that I've mentioned, because I always like when we can just all vent together. I will be putting more videos on the screen that I recommend you check out, and I will see you in my next one very soon. Bye.